everyone. It's 12 o'clock. Assisting me today is going to be Myles Debski, who is one of our senior video production people who was involved with all the training videos that we have that we've come out with here for the FileMaker Cloud. So today's presentation is going to be our monthly presentation for FM Pug, which is our user group, worldwide, right? So it's a worldwide user group. Sometimes we do live broadcasts with Dig FM. This month we kind of held off and decided to broadcast this a little bit late, but it's important content. This is a big deal in the world of FileMaker, a really big deal. And so we've got a couple things here just to run through. This time we are broadcasting. Today I'm not broadcasting from the studio, but normally that's what our production studio looks like. Now, throughout today's broadcast, you're going to have the opportunity to ask questions, and some of you have already been firing questions off pretty vigorously here, and so we're going to work through as many of those as we can, and so that's kind of our strategic plan for the day. Now, I'm Richard Carlton, hello everyone. For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm the smiling face that you hear talking to you in the weekly training videos that we send out at learningfilemaker.com. We have various training courses. And because we just produced an entire section about FileMaker Cloud, we have kind of ninja level expertise with this product. And so it made sense for us to do the webinar and broadcast this. What the short version of what the FileMaker Cloud is, it's a service / product that FileMaker has been working on for a number of months, in fact, for a number of years actually. And it is tightly tuned to work with Amazon AWS. Amazon AWS is a $9 billion a year operation, and they provide data centers all over the world. Data centers in the United States and in Europe and Southeast Asia and Australia and just pretty much everywhere. And so FileMaker has released a product that is tuned to work with their services. And what it is basically, in plain English, is a version of FileMaker Server that is tuned to work with Amazon. But it is a Linux version of Server. And so just up front, there's not going to be a Linux download for you to get to and to play with on your own. If you want to use this product, you use it with Amazon, kind of in a controlled environment. They're not turning this loose in the wild. People have requested the FileMaker, but I think the benefit to what FileMaker is doing here is part of it is the Amazon services. I mean, this whole pre-built CAN process that's highly reliable. FileMaker is still going to offer FileMaker Server. So we'll refer to this frequently as FileMaker Server on-premise, and this is your Mac and Windows FileMaker Server that we've always had. It's going to continue to be available. It's not going away, but FileMaker Cloud now is a second choice that we have in terms of hosting our solutions. If you have a FileMaker Server in your office, then using FileMaker Cloud will give you broader, better performance across the internet. However, your office people might see a little bit of a slowdown because there's a benefit to having a server in the office with you. So we'll get into the trade-offs back and forth on this. I'm a big fan of the cloud. I think it fits probably 80% of the people out there, their needs. And then there's probably 10, 15, 20% where it doesn't really fit your needs because you need something special. So first off, the cloud works with Go, Pro, WebDirect, just like FileMaker Server does. The big issue here and the big bonus is the whole issue of performance and installation and simplicity. And Amazon's got these data centers all over the world. Initially on this initial release, they're supporting data centers in North America. There's an East Coast and a West Coast data center. The idea is always to pick the data center that's closest to you. The closer the FileMaker Server, the better the performance. It's always the way it is. They are looking at adding Europe, EMEA, at some point in the future. Not distant future. I think it's fairly, well, I don't want to say fairly soon. It's up to FileMaker to announce their schedule for things. I just know that a lot of people said the European customers went, hey, we need this. And FileMaker says, we hear you, and they're working on it. I think partially this is kind of a phased rollout from their perspective because they want to see how this goes in North America. And if there's any kinks with it, they fix the kinks before they roll it out worldwide. That's my general impression of this. So let's talk about the differences. So on the right here, we're talking about FileMaker Server. This is our Mac and Windows installation. This is our Amazon FileMaker Cloud. And we're going to get into this. We're going to demo it. We're going to play with it. But I want to just so you understand what the deal is here. Setting up a FileMaker Server is generally hours of work, 2 to 4 hours, maybe more, depending upon what you're doing. An Amazon setup, we're generally doing it easily in less than 30 minutes. FileMaker has it going less than 20 minutes. But the whole idea is that it's a couple clicks. It's a very simple process to go through. In fact, we have videos that talk about it, and you can watch those videos and see how it's done. In fact, actually, FileMaker actually came out with a couple videos themselves. They did a good job. And so they have a videos from their basic sequence of installation. So I kind of, in some ways, I have a couple overlapping videos with them, but we have a total of 20 training videos that talk about FileMaker Cloud. About 9 of them or 10 of them are on the YouTube, and then the more advanced under the hood ones are a part of our FileMaker Pro video course. So scalability, this is really cool. So Amazon has what they call virtual servers, and Amazon doesn't call them really virtual servers, they call them instances. An instance, it's an occurrence or an instance of a server, and it's all virtualized. So it's, you know, they have a giant refrigerator-sized machine that costs who knows how much money, you know, 5 figures and then some. And on that machine, you probably have 20 or 30 or 50 virtual servers that run on that machine. And so you're renting effectively a slice of a virtual machine up in the cloud, which is really cool. And the cost is pretty compelling, and we're going to see that here in just a bit. So you have the Amazon cost, which is pretty inexpensive, typically cheaper than what I could host for example. Then you have the licensing from FileMaker, and the licensing costs are the same. There's no cost increase. There's no additional license. All you have to do is make sure that you're on an annual license, and if you're not on an annual license, it gets into a situation where you're just going to talk to FileMaker sales, and they're going to convert you. And so if you're a perpetual person, you buy the licenses outright, and you like that, that's just not a model that's supported with the modern cloud technology. I mean, Amazon rents their machines either by the hour or basically monthly, yearly. There's no concept of buying it outright and owning it. So FileMaker has the software set up to match that. The cloud software works together with Amazon, they match. So you're going to have to be on some sort of annual license for that. The cool part is that because Amazon offers all these different levels of servers, from a little tiny server to a real giant server, which we're on today, it gets into a situation where you can choose to scale up or scale down the server. So like yesterday afternoon, I was on a small server. I said, hey, we have this webinar. Let's press the button and upgrade it to a big server. And the server went down for about 20 minutes on its own, completely automatic. And 15, 20 minutes later, up comes the new server with our FileMaker file running on it, right? Super cool. And it had upgraded itself to a giant server with like 50 or 80 or 100 processors and 160 gigabytes of RAM and crazy performance. And so that's what the kind of server you would need to host 100 people. So that's what this is all about. This is an interface shot here. This is the older FileMaker interface. This is the new cloud interface. We're going to dig into this and show this quite a bit here in a bit. I'm just going to move on through the slideshow, then we'll get to the real life stuff. You get into areas where we start talking about things where, can I use FileMaker Cloud, or do I need something that it doesn't offer? And remember, FileMaker Cloud's kind of this 1.0 offering. It came out yesterday morning, right? So it's kind of 1.0. And FileMaker's looking into the future of what they want to add into it. And so the question is, what does it do and what does it not do? So obviously, it supports all the clients. There is no custom web publishing wired into it right now. So if you need PHP hooked to your database or XML, that kind of thing, then that's not supported in FileMaker Cloud. You continue to use FileMaker Server, right? Makes sense. And the schedule engine that you have where you can run scripts on FileMaker Server, that does not exist in the FileMaker Cloud. What does exist in the FileMaker Cloud, if it's on the next slide, I hope, is the PSOS. The PSOS is the command where the client tells the server to run a script. That's supported. PSOS and SASE are almost identical. This one is scheduled, like you set it to run every hour automatically. There's no scheduling engine in FileMaker Cloud. So therefore, because there's no scheduling engine, there's no mechanism to set a schedule for the script to run. However, the server will run a script if your client specifically asks for that. And that is in that sample file you folks have. If you go to the main screen and press the update button down at the bottom, it will run a script for you, okay? Now, I've never tried to run it with 100 people pressing at the same time, and if you notice right here, it's limited to 25 requests at one time. Keep in mind, however, that that server is, you press it, it's completing it in about 1 second. So it's pretty quick about doing the update and updating that dashboard that's a sample FileMaker file. We're going to see that shortly. If you're doing Odbc, Odbc is supported as long as it's you're connecting to Oracle, MySQL or Microsoft SQL. With the release of FileMaker 15, there was some additional connections to Postgres and DB2 and a couple other things. Those are not supported in FileMaker Cloud. Just those main three external data systems are supported. Security. You know, for those of you who are Star Trek fans or you hear references of Star Trek and the modern terminology, the FileMaker Cloud runs around with the shields up all the time. I think that's a good analogy. You know, they always run around Star Trek and the shields are down, then something bad happens, they raise the shields, frequently too late. The FileMaker Cloud runs around with the shields up all the time. The encryption's always on, SSL is part of it, and so understand that the maximum level of security is enabled by default and must be run. It won't let you shut off the encryption of security, which is good. We're to the point now in the world where every political campaign or whatever is getting hacked and all sorts of embarrassing things are in there because people have an interest in it. I don't know how many of you have very interesting FileMaker databases. I know that I've heard of some that are out there and certainly some government agencies, etc. So, you know, obviously the encryption is important. And if you have customer data, it's important. People don't want personal information getting out there. With FileMaker Server, the encryption is optional, right? It's always been optional, but with the cloud, it's required. So the way the backups work, when you set up FileMaker Cloud, it by itself runs backups every 20 minutes, okay? It runs backup every 20 minutes, and they overwrite after 1 week. At night, at a maintenance period that runs in the middle of the night, we can talk about that briefly, it will create what it calls a preserved backup. It's a backup that is kept forever until you tell it to delete it. And the backups are super lightweight, super efficient. They're actually much more efficient than they are in FileMaker Server. We'll talk about that. But a backup is only the blocks, the bits of data that changed since the last time you ran the backup. So understand that in the current copy of FileMaker, if you have 10 FileMaker files and you edit 3 of the FileMaker files and it runs a backup, those 3 FileMaker files will be completely written to the backup, fresh, right? On the FileMaker Cloud, it finds just the bits that have changed, like this 20K here and 10K here and that kind of thing, just the elements of the file change. It backs those elements up. So the backups are only the data that you change. Super efficient, which is really cool. Helps to keep the cost down, etc. So differences here, we talk about this. You know, if you have a FileMaker server somewhere there's a Mac or a Windows machine that you can log on to and you can see the operating system, okay? That doesn't exist in the FileMaker Cloud. There's no operating system to log on to. Technically, the Linux is there, but FileMaker has not given you any visibility into that server, okay? So it's important to understand that. Now, both of these have an administrative console, and we're going to see that quite a bit today. And of course, just, you know, now I'm done with the PowerPoint slideshow. That gets into the situation of what server is best for you. So we're going to dive into this. We're also going to be fielding questions as we go along. And I'm going to just remind everyone that the full set of videos is the 1800 section in the training, right? So I'm going to go ahead and quit. All right. So this is the database that you can all log into. I'm going to refresh this. It's the FileMaker. This is the FileMaker UAC, or the CAC as they refer to it, the Cloud Administrative Console, and it's refreshing and downloading the information. And after a moment, this information will repopulate and update. It takes it a second to do that. In fact, I can actually sign out and sign back in if I want. So when you get a URL to your server, this is the virtual Linux server up here at the top. This is my account right here. I can log in and put a password in here and then get it into the console. So this is the console. Oh, so here it updated. So we have currently 78 people logged on to the database. Awesome. Everyone who's doing that, you're great. Now notice, this is really important to understand. We have up to 100 connections here, and these are Go connections. They're WebDirect connections, although I'm not trying to push WebDirect today just because I always prefer, if I have a chance to work in a product, to work in Pros. That's my thing. But you have now 80 people now are using Pro to access it. So I can go up here at the top and take a look at this. I'm going to look at databases. I only have one database running here. Now we have 83 people. And I can go to backups and see what backups I have running here. Now these backups on the right are the ones that run every 20 minutes. The ones that run at night are the ones that are preserved. So after 1 week, these will start to overwrite themselves. These will never overwrite themselves. They stay kind of forever. Okay? Now, what I want to show you real quick is, we'll look at the configuration file real quick. And I got this. I'm moving, in case you see me move, I'm moving my GoToWebinar little menus around to try to get them out of the way. So this is our server. This is what we have. So basically, the dashboard and the configuration are, from my perspective, a little similar. They show you the kind of critical data. This is the ID of the instance. Okay. I don't know how technical you folks want to get with this today, but effectively, this is your unique server ID in the world of Amazon. You don't have to really know about it, but it's handy to see this if you want to dive into this. This is the size of the instance we have right here. If I go to subscription, this shows us my subscription for the software and my instance settings. These are the instances that are allowed by FileMaker. Now, here's the deal. They go from small to massive. And this massive one up here at the top, right here, is the one that it would normally be down here in the list. And you look at these prices and you want to barf because the price on this one we're running today is like $1,700. The rub is that this is misleading in the extreme, and I want to show you why that is. I've got another sample file here. If I can find it. Is this it here? Please be it. Oh, here it is. And this is a free little sample FileMaker file. In fact, Myles is going to find the Dropbox to this. Myles, you have the drop. Oh, actually, do I have it? No, not here. Where is it? Stickies? Stickies. Stickies. There it is. This is the link here. I'm going to try to stick it in the chat. Chat, paste. It's kind of a long link. Anyway, this is the current link for it if you want that file. This is it right here. So this is the file right here. These are the same instances that you see over here in the FileMaker Administrative Console. What this thing does is it shows you the pricing, and it kind of tiers them up. It shows you this, but all the way down to the worst possible price, or the most biggest gnarly server. Now, if you have an active number of 100 people connecting to the server, etc., then maybe that's not a big deal. But understand that FileMaker quotes this price on a what they call on demand. So we can rent this. Right now, this service is set up so I can run it for a day, or 2 days, or 5 hours, and then I can shut it off, and I only pay for that amount of time. Almost every customer that I have, and some of you are my customers, can see that, well, I'm going to use FileMaker for a year, or I'm going to use it for 3 years. If you come over here and look at these columns, the prices get progressively lower as you commit to Amazon to be around for a while, right? So you commit to them, you prepay for some of the 3 years, but the net average monthly payment, you can see right here, it goes down by about 2/3. So this server right here is your typically your less, 1 to 5 people, and really no more than 5, and you're going to be pushing it, especially if you try to do web direct with it. But it's pretty inexpensive, especially if you commit to a couple of years. It's like $8-10 a month. The average server for a group of 5 people is going to be this T2 medium, and so you're looking at this price here plus this price plus this price. So your out the door price is, another $12. So you're up to close to $30 there on a reservation. So that's what we're doing here. With this refresh button, what it does is it checks to see if Amazon has new pricing data, because the prices can fluctuate. They're kind of a commodity item, and so the prices will go up and down. Typically, they trend down, right? And they change a little bit region to region. So once again, we talked about Amazon having all these data centers. These are all the data centers they have, okay? Currently, the FileMaker Cloud is only available in North Virginia and Oregon for now, and then they're going to add other ones as we go along. So they understand that's important, and this right here is a really great pricing tool to help you kind of understand. So real quick, 0 to 5 users, this is my experience. A solid group of 5 users, this is the T2 large is your 10 users. You might be able to get away with a T2 medium for 10 users if they're really lightweight. And once again, when I say user, I'm talking about simultaneous people hitting on the server. Once again, if we go back over here to this, and I look at the dashboard, now we have 87 people, right? And if I scroll down here and look at do I have CPU? I do have CPU, and so it spikes, but really you're not pushing too hard, which is great. Thank you for not trashing it. But the saying is that you should be able to go in there and do the contact database has a bunch of records in it. Go in there and do a find, and drive around. And does it seem reasonable? So I'm one of the people here. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to contacts here. I'm in contacts. Maybe I'm in contacts if I'm still connected. There I go. Okay. So I can flip through records, and yeah, that's not bad. And then plus, remember, I'm also doing a broadcast here, so my internet here is kind of suffering. So if I do a find, and I'm going to do everyone with the first letter of J and hit return. That was instantaneous. 9,907 records, right? I go to list view, and it brings it down. And part of this is the improvements in network performance of FileMaker 15. We cover this in our training, but FileMaker did some things to improve the performance. Every time they release, it gets better. So if you're using FileMaker 12 or 13, or even 14, I can get a stopwatch out and show you how much it's better in 15. So anyway, so there you go. So we actually have people using it. Of course, more of us are using it now. So notice it spiked. I said something, let's check out, let's play with it, right? Now we're up to 2% of usage, right? So kind of cool, kind of cool. You start to see, so you say, well, what size instance do we want for 100 people? I don't know. You might be able to get away with this one right here, this M4 4X. This number right here, if you guys can see this, this is legitimately, I can zoom in a little bit. This one right here is the name that Amazon goes by. This is kind of a description here. This is really the name here. So M4 10 extra large is the one we're running today. I went, all out with this thing. It's going to cost me like $50 to run it for a day. You might be able to get away with one smaller, but the cool part is to change the instance and to shift it up or down. All I have to do is come over here. If I can scroll up, my windows keep flying off the side. I go to subscription, I go to instances, and then I choose the one I want. I want to say, hey, I want to change to this one right here. And if I say OK, it's going to disconnect all you, and about 10 or 15 minutes later, it comes back up magically with a smaller server. So it's really cool in terms of adjusting your scalability, right? And the same thing goes for the storage here. I'm going to hit cancel very carefully. I don't want to cause a problem. Storage settings. So you go 40 gigs. That's awful small. This is just the, these are solid state drives. This is just the drive space that you have allocated for your live database, for the single copy of the live file. So do you have a 40 gigabyte file? Probably not. I can think of 2 or 3 people off the top of my head. One's from Caltrans, one's from Sacramento. You know who you are, Mr. Eric. If you're on the chat, you know who you are. I'm not going to embarrass you. But he's running around with a database that are like 300 gigs. And I'm like, dude, too big. It makes me nervous. That's a really big database. But clearly 40 is anything in there fits. But so the backups don't save into here. That's the important part. The backups do not save into the 40 gigabytes. The backups go elsewhere. And remember, it's only saving the bits of data that change. So it's not writing 40 gigabytes every backup and another 40 every backup. It's writing, 128K or 500K, or if you import a bunch of data or a bunch of pictures, maybe a couple megabytes. So the backups are very inexpensive. 10 gigabytes of data is $1 a month for backups. So it's really trivial. So really, most people will have a 40 here, most likely, and then they're going to have a group of 1 to 5 people, or maybe less, somewhere in the 5 range in here. Depends on how busy you're hitting the server. And once again, I don't mean the total number of people that might log in. I'm talking about the people that realistically log in at one time. For example, right now, realistically logged in, we have 86 people. And so if I knew that was my number in my head, then I go, okay, I got 150 employees or 200 employees, but 86 are logged on at one time. And this has nothing to do with the FileMaker license. It just has to do with the fact that I got to calculate how big of an instance I have. If you have a site license for a FileMaker, and you have 200 people, then you got a super great deal, but you have to pay for each of those 200 people, right? That's a site license from FileMaker. Very few people buy that, but if everyone in your company buys it and you have more than 25 people, I think is the number, then you can get a site license. It's the best deal you can get. So you get the idea of what is your realistic simultaneous, and then you can adjust your instances based on that. So we got questions that are flying around. I want to make sure we get questions. One question came up early on. I want to answer this. Amazon has a free tier of server, and they call it, I guess it's important to point this out. So these are the instances right here that FileMaker has elected to, it's a good range of servers, and this is your list. Well, there's actually like 50 or 60 servers in Amazon's actual available list, okay? And so there are servers bigger than this. There's a lot of servers in between here that are kind of optimized differently with more RAM or less RAM or different drives. There's actually an instance below this called the T2 Micro you don't see. A gentleman was asking me just a little bit ago, could you use the T2 Micro to run FileMaker? And because the T2 Micro is like free for like most of the year to try out, the problem is that it generally doesn't have enough horsepower to drive FileMaker server in a reasonable way. That could change in the future, and certainly it's fun to play with it and try it, but realistically your entry-level spot is going to be this T2 Small. And once again, don't freak when you see FileMaker's price, because this is their on-demand hourly price, and over here we know that the prices get cheaper if you actually commit to a year or 3 years. The prices go way down. C4 high, this one here is like 25, 30 users, maybe 50 users, 60 users, maybe. I don't know we could drive 89 people beating on the server with this right here. I just don't think it has enough juice for that. So you get the idea. You know, there's 5, there's 10, about. Once again, these are ballpark numbers that you could play with. But think about 10 users and on your own dedicated server, and you're paying 30, well, plus 8, so that's 42, 40, 46 bucks a month for 10 users. So I don't know what prices you normally paid with shared hosting, but these are kind of comparable, okay? Plus, you have your own server with your own security codes, and no one's files are next to yours, right? You're not sharing a shared server. Really, it's your own dedicated virtual server. So it's cool. It's really cool stuff. So it's an option in the world that we have. It's not the end-all, be-all, certainly. It's just an option that we have. So let me click on my GoToMeeting here and take a look at questions. How are we doing? Myles, if you want to unmute yourself and help me out with questions a little bit, you can.
Yeah, I got
only like 8 million questions.
I got some good ones here. First one, will the FileMaker Cloud work with Fios built apps?
FileMaker Cloud will work with Fios built apps as long as your Fios engine is 1502. And if I say Fios engine, that's the release number, right? That's the 1502. 1502 came out yesterday, so you're going to have to take recompile your app and resubmit it to Apple or whatever however you're deploying. And that's the iOS SDK. You can build your own native FileMaker Go apps for phone and iPad, and it's the acronym spells out to be FiOS. It stands for FileMaker Ios App Sdk, F-I-A-S. So we have a whole video course that just talks about that. But the answer is anything can connect to this as long as you're at 1502. That makes sense? So 12, Pro 12, 12, 13, 14 will not connect to the cloud server. Partly because the FileMaker is mandating the security be enabled and turned on, and those previous versions of FileMaker Pro did not know about the cloud server. So 1502 is the one that is aware of that. What other questions you got, Myles?
All right. If there isn't a built-in distributed server model, will third-party solutions such as Sync Server Pro or MirrorSync work with FileMaker Server on the cloud?
Distributed, okay, well, distributed could mean two things. It could mean either clustered. We got a video on that. So the short version, plugins.
Yeah.
Plugins. Oh, let's talk about this. You had some questions about plugins, I'm sure. And I, of course, managed to skip over that somehow in my, let me make this window smaller. It's driving me insane. Sorry, stand by 1 second here. All right, here we go. All right, scroll up the top, dashboard. Is it configuration? Is that where the plugins are hiding? Where
Yes.
are the plugins? Server-side plugins right here, they're disabled. Okay, so you see that they're in here. So plugins that are currently built are Mac and or Windows plugins, right? So that's what everyone's been building. The plugins here have to be Linux-based plugins. They have to be recompiled and tweaked to work with Linux. So I have talked to Productive Computing a little bit, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to offer. They do have some offerings they're planning on doing in that area. I know that 360 works. I just got a flash traffic, a pigeon flew in here. My owl, yeah, my Harry Potter owl flew in and gave me the message from Jesse Barnum. That text message reads, "Richard, I hate you, and tell everyone that the mirror sync and all the plugins should be functional and available next week. So besides the fact that Jesse hates me, and for those of you who know Jesse and me, we love each other. That's good. It's fine. But I always give him a hard time. Mirror sync and all the plugins from 360works should be functional and available next week, according to him. For me, the biggest one I use is email, the email plugin from 360works, because I'm always sending HTML emails out, and I want the server to be able to do it. So that's one that I would really want to be able to have. So anyway, so I don't know if Jesse's on the line listening to me. He can text me if he has any more information. So you're going to want to check the plugin vendors. I know that 360works has been burning the midnight oil trying to get things converted and tested. And so, this cloud thing becomes available, but here's the thing. If you have a FileMaker server that's running right now and it's functional right now, then and you're happy with it right now, there's no reason to immediately jump off and use the cloud, right? But if you're going to upgrade your server, or you have an old one, or you need more horsepower, or whatever the issue is, then looking at the FileMaker Cloud is useful. So once again, we go through we have a video, so let me talk about that briefly here. Well, I can leave that open. So this is our FileMaker Pro 15 video training course. Probably half of you online, we have a couple hundred people here online, probably half of you have this, the other half probably should go get it. But anyway, this has all the different sections about training. Down here at the bottom, the 1800 section is right here, and it talks, everything in here is cloud. Now, if you want to just search for it up here, type FMC for FileMaker Cloud. I asked FileMaker, I said, is FMC an acronym? They said, no, it's not an acronym. I said, okay. But I think everyone on the planet's going to call it FMC because that's how it spells. So we got all the information, the detailed comparison. Is FileMaker Cloud right for you? We walk through it. Are you using a plugin? Is a plugin available? Are you using PHP? Is that available? Active Directory. Handful of you use Active Directory. FileMaker Cloud does not currently support Active Directory. So if you're a huge enterprise and you're using Active Directory, FileMaker Cloud might be right for you in 6 months or a year or whatever it is, but it's not right for you today. Okay? Make sense? Questions, Myles?
Yeah, we had a couple questions asking how do we handle storage for external containers?
Okay, so that's a great question. Great question. So I'm going to zip back to here. Okay, so we talked about the fact, well, even my configuration, it shows my drive size? Yeah, it shows right here that I have, oh, okay, this is throwing me off because I got the super big server. But I think I still have 40 gigs, right? Is that what I have? So I have the giant server with 40 gigs, which is really funny. But that's all I needed. This database is 400 or 500K. The storage space for the remote containers is you don't see it, but it's a directory folder right next to the FileMaker file, just like it is in FileMaker Server. So your remote container, your containers that have external storage, frequently they're referred to as remote containers internally at FileMaker. Frequently engineering calls it that. But they're the containers that are external, that are remote. It's great for document management and speed. That's contained in here. So if you have, for example, I have this database we have is, say, 200 or 300K, whatever it is. It's actually a copy of it, right? Well, I think I got rid of it, but it's like 300K. And say I had a gigabyte of documents. Okay, well, then I have 300K plus a gigabyte, so I have 1.3 gigabytes. 1.3 that comes out of here. It's the live file, right? This is the live snapshot of our files, including the documents. They're all in here. The backups will contain changes in those documents. So if you have a backup, so like this backup right here is 3 hours ago. I'm in a different time zone, and that gets into, well, we can talk about it in a little bit. But the point is that this is every 20 minutes. So the backups in here are just the changed files that are the remote containers, plus the bits of data that change in your FileMaker file. So that's completely covered. Next question, Myles.
All right, next one, which we have some great videos that would answer this, but if we have server through the FileMaker developer subscription, can we use that license on AWS?
No, I asked that. I tried to weasel that out of them, and they, in fact, I'm pushing on them to allow for that. at least with like 1 or 2 connections. It's a 3-connection server. So according to FileMaker, that license won't be accepted. And so just the way that is, there's no way to really, FileMaker has not given the developers yet a way to play with this without like spending money. And so that's kind of a problem in my opinion, but I think this is all new for them. It came out yesterday. This webinar is right on the cutting edge. So you guys, folks, people, I say that loosely, are getting the latest information like right off the press. So the good news is that you should let them know. I would go to, if you're part of the FDS, which means you're probably part of FBA or whatever, post a question there. Say, hey, we need a way of playing with this. And they say, well, you have a 14-day free trial. If you go into Amazon and you do a search, you go to Amazon Marketplaces where you start this whole sleigh ride. There it is right there. It gives you these offerings right here. And so you can buy a 5, 10. There's also a 25. It's sorted kind of funny down here. And 100 users. And so if you select one of these, like the 5-user pack, they offer a 15-day trial. The problem is, as a developer, I need a way of having a 2 or 3 person trial that runs all the time so I can show it off to customers and discuss it, etc. So feel free to ask them about that. If only one of us asked, so far it's just been me, but if some of you ask for it, then maybe they'll come up with a way of doing it. So anyway, 15-day trial is here, gets you going. Understand that there's no trial for Amazon. So when we come back over here to the instances here, this little file here, there's no trial in here except for any of these tiers. So these tiers, they have a trial once again that's a T2 micro, but it's not something we have access to because it's just so underpowered. That's why Amazon gives it away. So there's no really free trial. If you want to do a trial with FileMaker on the cloud, the FileMaker software can be free, but you're still going to pay for the instance. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So we're up to 8 users of the connections, but and I'm going to mention this to them. We really need another number over here that's total connected, and it should be 95 or whatever it is. We're almost up to 100. I need 5 more people to log on. So people that have FileMaker 1502 and you're slacking it, help me out and give me some more bodies so we can go over 100. I can say we did it. Questions, Myles?
Yeah. Can I run several databases for different clients on the same instance?
No, you're into well. The answer is that shared hosting, and that was basically banned in FileMaker 15. The problem is that when you have multiple separate companies that are in the same server, it opens attack vectors for you to be attacked by them or you, or the point is that part of the defense, part of the we're talking about running around with the shields up all the time. The shields are up. If you have 5 people that are all you're sharing their stuff, those 5 people are already beamed on the ship. They're inside the shields, right? You understand the analogy there? We beamed 5 random people that we don't know they like each other. One of them might be a terrorist for all I know, right? Some guy in Russia hacking the server, right? So that's not good. So the idea is that you each have your own little starship or a starship that fits your needs. You don't beam everyone onto one ship, okay? Just the way that rolls. Next question, please.
Is there a model that supports users on both coasts, like a distributed server model for optimal performance and reduced latency?
Okay, so that's clustering. There is a video we shot. If you do a search for FileMaker clustering on YouTube, we talk about that. That can be wired up with MirrorSync 3. It's not part of the FileMaker product line yet. FileMaker might, obviously people ask for this, right? So FileMaker is aware of this. If you would like to see this, send them an email and make sure that you think it's valuable that it does that. There's no automatic button yet that would do that. You can write your own synchronization routine to balance those, okay? And in that video, we actually see that. We see there's a technology from Amazon called Elastic Load Balancer that as people come in, it sends them to one server or the other server, and it kind of routes them back and forth. So there's a load balanced kind of fault tolerance. So if one server blows up, the other server keeps going. Of course, you're paying for extra servers, right? And in this case, you'd also be paying for the licenses. But it's doable with third-party technology from 360works, 360works.com. They have it. It's not built into the FileMaker product as a native feature yet. So not yet with that. So that's that question. Go ahead, next question.
All right, this is the last one I have, unless other people want to send some in. What configuration do you recommend for 10 users with a database size of about 2 gigabytes, but highly used?
Highly used. Okay, so whoever sent that, if you want to send us more data, it's fine. So listen, you're going to have to play with this a little bit. I would say certainly you need to park in here at the T2 large position here. That's a server with 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's got 2 processors on it. That may or may not be enough. If you get it going and you get a reservation for it, you can always upsize it and the reservation to a bigger server if you want. I was using the C4. This is kind of like your middle of the road one here. And these two price-wise, if I can. So we're talking about for 10 hard charging users, this right here. If they're really beating the database up with lots of images and like reporting, like lots of sorts and lots of just like lots of scripts that are running, I would start with a T2 large, seriously, and then if it doesn't cut it, it doesn't seem to cut it, then what you do is you just tell it to upsize the instance, right? That's the whole benefit of this cloud stuff. This is crazy good. I mean, if you bought a machine and you underbought the machine, what are you going to do with the machine? You're going to send it back to Dell, or are you going to send it back to Apple or whoever you bought it from? With Amazon, you say, oh, no, just give me this different one. Click, and it does it. And you get billed for what you used on the other one, and then you get billed on this new one, and if you do a reservation, it's cheaper. So you can upsize or downsize here. Here's the other cool part about this. So in this SYS software, and we can talk about a couple things here you don't know about. Oh, you guys are awesome. I'm 105. Oh, some of this logged off. 14 connections and 89, so we're at 104. Do I have that right? No, 103. 103, 104. Yay. 100 users, 100 plus users. Awesome. And for WebDirect, okay, you WebDirect people, I didn't give you the URL for that. You're in there on your own. I'm looking at the people right here. See, I give you guys a link to something, and then it's like just turning it loose into the public, and you hope everyone behaves, right? Here's important. There is a process in here called RobotDB. RobotDB is an automatic process that does a lot of things for us. It sends you an email. If you go over the amount of storage space, you get 90% storage. If you go over 90% memory allocation or 90% CPU, it will send you a warning. The other thing that goes on in the middle of the night, if I can have this come up, is that it will try to run maintenance at midnight to 3 in the morning, okay? And it's important to understand that when it does that, it's going to actually attempt to basically just kind of restart the server. But in order for that to work, everyone has to be effectively disconnected, if that makes sense. And so what happens is that normally you can leave people connected to your server all day, all night. And what we're doing is we're setting a timeout in the administrative console here. But the idea is that you set the users so they log off. If all the users are logged off of the FileMaker server, then the administrative console or the robot will actually shut the server down. It'll check to make sure everything's running well. It'll do a preserve backup with a verify. Okay, it's really important. So what it does is between 12 midnight and 3 in the morning, it looks to see if everyone's disconnected, and if they are, then it does this maintenance. Anyway, the point though is that people have to be logged off. If they're actually logged on to the server, then it won't do the maintenance. So the whole idea is that you really need to have people log off in the middle of the night and give them a launcher file so they can get back in really quickly. But the idea is that you need to log everyone else out so it does the maintenance. You won't get the preserved backup made if the RobotDB doesn't run between 12 midnight and 3 in the morning. And so every 15 minutes it looks to see if people are connected. Every 15 minutes they connected. And if everyone is off, then what ends up happening is that it does the maintenance, and it actually kind of restarts the server. It just does maintenance to make sure everything's running correctly and is functional. So it's whereas before we could leave people connecting, you have people connected for days and weeks. You know, it's better that we go ahead and disconnect them in the evening, and then with the maintenance can run. Otherwise, you don't get the preserved backups. You want a preserved backup that lasts longer than a week. That's a super important takeaway. All right, so we log in, it does its thing, it's getting the data. We probably lost a bunch of people, but they're still connected. Well, we're almost to 100 still. So you get the idea that that this backup right here this preserve only gets run if everyone's logged off. It's very important. So this runs every 20 minutes. This is a preserve backup that will last forever. This gets erased every 7 days and gets replaced with a new one. These preserved ones can go back weeks and weeks and weeks and months, which is great. But you want to make sure one logs off. So what you do is you go to your configuration and you change this setting right here. Normally the default, when you see it on your machine and you get an installation, it'll look like this. It says no timeout. That's not good. Okay. It needs to be set with a timeout so people get off. So I set it for like 3 hours right here. You set it for 3 hours, which is great. The auto maintenance is enabled. This is this thing right here that we're talking about, the automatic maintenance. The robot DB actually is the one that triggers and runs this. So very important that you leave this on and then you get people to get off. If you hope that they get off on their own, you're just dreaming. And then what you'll find out is that you'll go over to backups and you'll have a couple backups here, then you'll be missing like 3 or 4 weeks or a month, and then because someone was logged in the middle of the night, right, then no preserved backups ran. So you have the ones for the last week, but anything farther back than that doesn't exist. So it's kind of important little thing to be aware of there. But as you can see, yeah, 94 clients here. That's really great. Let me take a screenshot on my screen, actually. I like that. Wish we could have 100 on there. I missed the screenshot when we had 100. Anyway, excellent. So we have more questions because this is a lot of good conversation here, notwithstanding me getting dropped.
Someone asked what type of notifications are available.
Basically, there's a service. Well, the basic notifications are CPU, RAM, and then any other maintenance. This will also notify you if there's updates that need to be run. During testing, for example, FileMaker would send us a new test version to play with, and it would say, you have a new test version. You'd say, okay, download and update it, and it'll do it in the middle of the night. If it's critical and you agree to it, like it's a critical patch, then it will do it within the hour potentially. So it shuts down, it makes the patch, and then it spins back up. Now, for those of you who are still here, we still have a good clip. We lost a handful of people. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something really cool. And AWS, where is my console here? Let's see if I can get into this. This is beyond cool. Now, here's the deal. That's going to make me log on, right? Cloud, password. Oh, there it goes. Okay, it took me a second. It's been saved and I couldn't remember. So anyway, this is the Amazon console. When you go, and we guide through this in the videos, but this is, Amazon has got an entire certification, and it's a whole huge business. I mean, it's $9 billion a year, like way bigger than FileMaker to give you kind of relative size. I can select the region I want to do stuff in here, and then in here I can see what virtual servers I have running. I can see what sort of cloud storage I'm using. There's a million things in here. There's this CloudWatch monitoring service that you can click on, which will allow you to ping your FileMaker server to check for certain things and to send you additional emails. So if you want to know what kind of additional alarms that you can set and send yourself, it says it has 352 metrics about the bandwidth usage or things that are going on with it. Now, if you're looking for what people are doing in the database, CloudWatch doesn't look down inside the database. It looks at the server itself and gives you information on the server. But this is really cool stuff. So here's our EC2. I'm going to click on this. You'll get to see this. FileMaker generally doesn't want people in here playing with this because they're scared you'll do something goofy that you don't know what you're doing and you'll cause a problem. Here's our one instance right here. One instance, running instance. This is our virtual server. If I click on it, that is our server that everyone's been logging into. Okay, it's the M410X. It's in the West in the Oregon area. So if you're in the East Coast or you're across the world or wherever you're coming from, understand that the closer the server is to you, the faster performance. Ideally, the server would be 300 or 400 or 500 miles from you in an ideal world. Okay, if not closer. And so that's why you want to pick a data center that's closer to you. This one's closest to me, so that's why I picked this one. The thing is that FileMaker wants to be very clear about if you want to, everything like, for example, there is an emergency procedure if this thing is not working correctly. So what are the emergency procedures, right? We're flying an airplane, the left engine's on fire, what do we do? In the world of FileMaker, that would come along the lines of someone says, I can connect with Go, I can connect with Pro, but WebDirect isn't working for me. You hear something like that, right? And so 95, man, 95. We need 5 more people to log on. And I get my 100. I get a screenshot. I want to save that as a moment. So what happens is that, say like this isn't working right here. Normally, what's the emergency procedure? You restart the server, okay? There is a restart process in here, but not only does it restart the server, it rebuilds the virtual instance for you. It's like a complete redeployment, right? And so 96, come on. So you go over here to your configuration, and there's this button right here. This button should say break glass in case of emergency, because fire department and the police are going to show up, right? That's what this button should be, big red and flashing. It just says refresh. Some engineer at FileMaker had an innocuous idea that refresh was good. Technically, it's a refresh, but this puts out the fire. So it shuts the server down. It makes a backup of the file. It spins down this in this case, it would spin down this M410X. It would spin up a brand new M410X, reinstall itself, load the database on there. Everything would be done in less than 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? I can press this right here. And 99 users. All right, let me get over there and get a picture of that. But this is what this does. This is the refresh, restart mode. You don't want to do it. Hang on, let me check database. 100, woo! Screenshot. You guys are awesome. Thank you. So you can come over here, you can select it, and you can say actions. Now here's the part you need to be careful with, okay? Instant state. Okay. Stop. Reboot. This is like rebooting. This is like restarting. This is a restart command to Linux. And so it basically shuts down the server and restarts it. Terminate is the one they want to make sure you don't run in here because it blows up your instance and it's never coming back. If you run this right now, we lose the database. Okay, it's not a good place to be. So the terminate is if you're going to discontinue using FileMaker Cloud, you back the files up already, and you're going to quit using the service. Say that you're in FileMaker Cloud and you have a license for it, and you say, it's not for me, I want to go back to FileMaker Server. FileMaker will let you move from cloud to server and server to cloud. They have to adjust your licenses, and you're going to call them, but they will let you do it. One of the last things you do as you shut down the cloud is to terminate. You do it in a different spot. You don't do it here, but once again, I'm showing you, this is the hot stove. It's really hot. Don't put your finger on and burn it. And then half of you are going to go and put your finger on and burn it, but just do it with a test server if you're going to do that. So anyway, so 101, woo, screenshot. So the config here, what this does is not only does it restart the server, but it actually rebuilds it's like if it had a blank hard drive and it reinstalled the operating system is what it does. But it does it in like 10, 15, 20 minutes. So it's really a deep refresh. I don't know. Myles, what would you call it? Deep refresh? Did I explain that well enough? I know we're at 106, and I normally give this thing about 90 minutes. We have another 15, 20 minutes for those of you who want any additional depth, but basically I'm pouring this on for you so you understand, and it's all covered in detail. Nothing I've said here today is not covered in our videos. So if you don't have our videos, spend the $69 and go buy them. If you have them, then go watch them. More questions, Myles?
Yeah, someone asked if you could poke around a bit more in the monitoring section.
Monitoring. You mean like the CloudWatch? You know, here's the rub with this. You can go set up an Amazon account for free and play with this you want. I am still in the process of getting Amazon certified. I'm really close. So I'm going to have my Amazon certification close. But, I mean, every one of these areas in here is crazy. From Glacier is a giant storage area that's really cheap, so cheap that it's like pennies. But then if you want to recover something, it takes days to recover it. So FileMaker doesn't. So the idea is that even though you see all this stuff here, and FileMaker uses Amazon AWS, FileMaker only uses in terms of what we see, like this part right here and a little bit in here. That's all they use. Now, under the hood, they use other pieces themselves. They use Route 53. You'll see that in here for DNS. And they probably use a third of these under the hood. You never see it. And there's all sorts of things in here, like we talked about the clustering, right? If we want to do elastic load balance, it's one of those I got to be careful when there's Route 53. This does the DNS entries. Here's we start getting into elastic. Well, that's the transcoder. This is stuff for those of you who watch my videos online. You're watching them through CloudFront, wherever the heck that's at. Cloud. There's CloudFront right here. Okay, and that is what distributes my videos all to little data centers around the world. Really cool technology. The only reason I know about it is because I've been using it for 5 years or 4 years while we've been making these videos for you. If you watch them on YouTube, YouTube does its own thing, but when you watch them in the FileMaker app, you're watching them through the web viewer, through CloudFront. And we use Elastic Transcoder to encode them properly and then to load them into CloudFront. It's really amazing stuff. It's really over the pay grade of your basic FileMaker user, but you can get in here, just have fun, but just don't blow up your instance while you're playing with it, right? You saw the terminate. That's the Starship self-destruct and everyone dies or beams off or whatever they do. You beam off before you blow the ship up, right? Questions, Myles? In terms of me digging into CloudWatch, I'm going to let you do that. I'm sorry. I don't want to do that and look like an idiot. I haven't practiced this demo, so I don't want to do this in front of, almost 200 people. So you could browse the metrics. I guess we could look in here. You can see per volume metric, per instance metrics. CPU utilization, status check, network data in, out, packets, probably packets fail. All right, so that's about as far as I want to stretch my neck out before it gets chopped off, right? Myles, questions?
We've had a couple questions about the process for restoring from backup, or if you move.
Okay, we should talk about that. Talk about that. That's important. It's one of those I can't believe I missed that one. All right, so listen. So this is an important gotcha. Okay, it's not really a bad gotcha, but it's an important gotcha. Okay, one, every customer that's using FileMaker in the cloud or on a server should have their own FileMaker server or their own FileMaker cloud, right? You shouldn't have companies that are sharing together. That's no longer part of the legal agreement. Okay, one. Two, understand that the backup on this is the process is that, say for example, well, okay, here's a short version. When you restore, okay, so let's say we want to back up from this one right here. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to say preserve the. I'm going to mark this to make it preserve. So this was an important backup. This was actually about 10 minutes ago. We're off on our time zones. I'm going to say preserve backup. It's going to come over here. It's preserved right here. I can now say restore. Okay. And what restore will do is it makes one more backup of the live file, okay? One more backup of the live file. Then it shuts this whole instance of server down and it blows the server out. It goes away. Then it builds a new server for you and it restores that file, okay? The reason they blow out the server and rebuild it is because they can do it in 10 minutes. And why not have a fresh server to start off with, right? And so that's kind of the idea. The rub with this is that if you have 20 files here and you want to restore one of them, there is no individual file selector for restoration. I have personally been in FileMaker's case about this. I've expressed my concern about this. I think it's something they would want to do in the future. They don't have it right now. It basically is a complete restoration of whatever that data set is. So all the databases get restored. If you have 10 files and you want to keep 5 of them, you need to select on the file and say download it, right? And download a local copy, and you keep a local copy, then you do the restoration, then you upload your new copies. So it's kind of this 3-part thing. We talk about it in one of the videos, but it's important to understand that the database restoration is kind of total and complete for all the files. So it's not it's a strategic tool. It does everything. It's not a tactical tool where you can itemize things, okay? Like I said, this is a 1.0 product, and they have a list of things they want to bring to market in terms of new features, And you should, if you think an individual file backup restoration is important, email FileMaker and tell them. Be nice about it, be positive, but tell them. Negative criticism is not necessarily helpful. Constructive criticism, where we say, hey, it's good, we like it, it would be more useful if blah, right? And you should tell them what they think. Otherwise, they don't know, what you want, right? I mean, they think they know what you want, but sometimes they, like anyone else, they maybe don't get the message. And so you should tell them what's important. I think the question came to me is, do we hold the launch on this? At somewhere along the line, it was a hypothetical question. Richard, should we ship it as is with a complete restoration, or should we hold it for X number of months or whatever, however long it would be for us to add that feature? And my opinion is this product can be shipped now. It's useful now. Most businesses have 1 or 2 or 3 main files that they operate in FileMaker on. And if you have to do a restoration, restoring all of them is not the end of the world, okay? And certainly there's a process for keeping them. So that's kind of my editorialized opinion, shall we say. Does not necessarily reflect the opinion of anyone else, including the people at FileMaker. FileMaker would never have had a webinar where we tried to destroy and blow the server up. But we did. We went all in, and it was awesome. And so, and like I said, we have a long list of all the people here. So awesome, awesome, awesome. Any parting questions as we start to wind this down?
I think one final one we have that could wrap it up. Someone asked with a winky face, so did we break it?
Yeah, they saw what? The what? Wink? Oh, they were smiling? No, we didn't break it. You would have seen it. Well, okay, here's the deal. In terms of I was concerned that we might try to overload the server. FM starting point is highly optimized for a deployment like this. Now, the dashboard is going to need a little update for those of you who are listening about this. You want a new version. The dashboard tries that little button that you press on the dashboard to update that. Is not working correctly in the shipping. If you go down the starting point, it runs it locally on your machine because it can't talk to the server the right way. I've got a get function in there that's messed up. I have to tweak and fix that so it sends it to the server correctly. When you log on to the FileMaker file, and we do this real quick, see if this will work. Now it's going to work, of course. And I'm going to log on as guest. The default version of FM starting point, which is a correct behavior, what it tries to do is it says, this script says, can I run it on the server? And if so, I'm going to run it. So I'm going to press the button. Someone just pressed it a second ago. You guys are all having fun pressing it. It'll do it in 1 second. There'll be a flash, and it's like 1 second, it's done. If you run it and it sees that it can't run it on a server, it will run it locally, which means it sends the data down to you. And then it takes right now about 16 seconds to run. I had to hack this script to get it to work. I had to take out the safeties. I'm not sure what in the script got broke. I'm just going to log in with so I can actually. I'll just show you what's going on for those of you. I'm assuming some of you are fairly technical in nature. In fact, I know some of you are probably more technical than I am. I go script workspace in here. The 50 script, there's an if statement right here, and I will show you the actual if statement. This if statement is not working correctly, and I think part of it is this right here. We should do a pattern count to see if the word server is in there. If you run this on server, you get cloud space server space version number, and I'm checking to see if the left word is server. The left word in this case is cloud. So there's an error in this line right here I have to fix. So I just bypassed it real quick because I discovered this about 5 minutes before we went on the air. And so that way you can actually see it run. It's cool. But we didn't break it. So starting point, this tool, it's free, right, is designed to be engineered to survive in a wide area network environment like on the cloud. It's specifically engineered that way. For example, I go to invoices right here, and I go to list view, and list view. There we go. And there's totals down here, and they don't show up. Why don't they show up? Because that would be a performance bottleneck and a serious problem. We only want the calculations to run when we tell them to. Otherwise, every time you jumped in out of the script, it would recalculate. We go here, we come back here. We come back here, it recalculates again. Come back here, it recalculates again. So the problem is that if you build things sloppily and you don't make it scalable, it's not going to work in a broad environment like with 100 users. So I say update totals. Now it runs a script. And we get a little dialogue, right? Which isn't any fun, but it does it. And we technically could offload this to the server, but I didn't in this case, right? But the point is that it only does it when we really need it. Okay? And now, oh, it's going to do like 3 of them. All right, keep going there. Keep going. Keep going. All right. Oh, well, $51 million. Okay, that's a. You know, and that was my budget last week. Yeah. So anyway, anyway, so as I go back here and I come back here again, the numbers stay because they're cache. It doesn't recalculate them. So we did that all throughout Starting Point to make it scale. Super important. And it's free, so there's no reason you can't play with this. Look for a 4.7 the next week or so. This is 4.6.7. Down here, it'll be a 4.7, which will fix that startup script on that, or not startup script, but the chart script. Okay. And once again, if you look at the cloud, we never taxed it hardly at all. So there you go. So and then everyone's dropping off. So I appreciate any final questions, Myles. I want to make sure I treat everyone as awesomely as possible.
I think just one more thing, maybe just mention where people can give feedback on cloud and suggestions for new functionality where they send.
FileMaker, do a search in Google, FileMaker Space Community. It's a FileMaker forum that FileMaker actively runs and they monitor it. And so there'll be conversations in there, some things about, I talk a little bit about stuff here and there and everywhere, but I would definitely do that. Yeah, there's our network usage and memory usage, right? So, yeah, I would leave feedback in there to them about it, what you like and don't like, or what might be more useful. And once again, make it constructive. These people are human. If you make it like a personal attack, it's not going to be useful. Just have a good, positive conversation. Tell them you like stuff, and this is what would be more useful, so you could really take advantage of it. And then, like I said, about 80% of the people out there who are watching this, I think, can take advantage of this, unless, like I said, they need PHP or a plugin that doesn't exist. And then, of course, check with 360works for updated information. I asked Jesse if he was having a sale today. Jesse said he was having 90% off. No, it was free. If you call him today, you get free products. That's a joke. Feel free to call him, but he's not going to give you free products today. Maybe another webinar, we'll do a 1-hour deal where you call and you get everything for free in 1 hour. That would be fun. Anyway, so we'll cut you loose, everyone. That's the end of the webinar. There will be a recording of this. We'll clean it up a little bit. We'll post it so you can share it. And expect to see additional emails and videos, all right? That's it for this week. I greatly appreciate it.